Hey everyone, welcome back to OJ Stars. Today we're delving into one of the most shocking and bizarre crimes in American history, the collar bomb heist. This story involves a pizza delivery driver, a real ticking explosive device strapped to his neck, and a criminal plot so twisted it stunned investigators and the public alike. The man at the center of this tragedy was Brian Wells, a 46-year-old delivery driver from Erie, Pennsylvania. On August 28, 2003, Brian found himself forced into a situation no ordinary person could have imagined. He was given a deadly collar bomb, instructed to rob a bank, and warned that any deviation from the instructions would result in immediate death. Within minutes, the bomb detonated, killing him instantly. Investigations would later reveal that the crime was far more complex than it initially appeared. At the heart of the conspiracy was Marjorie Deal Armstrong, a criminal mastermind with a history of manipulation and violence, alongside Kenneth Barnes, who assisted in the plot, and Bill Rothstein, a mysterious figure whose role remains partially unclear due to his death before trial. This is not just a story about a bank robbery, it's a case study in manipulation, coercion, and carefully orchestrated murder, a story that continues to fascinate experts and true crime enthusiasts. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button, because this story is both chilling and unbelievable. The morning sun rose over Erie, Pennsylvania, casting a calm glow over the quiet streets. Birds sang, neighbors went about their routines, and cars hummed softly along empty roads. Everything seemed ordinary, yet the day would soon take a terrifying turn. Brian Wells began his day like any other. A longtime pizza delivery driver, he prided himself on punctuality and professionalism. Friends described him as kind, reliable, and somewhat naive, a man who trusted people and valued routine. At around 9 a.m., Brian received a call requesting a delivery to a remote location near a television transmission tower on the outskirts of Erie. Following the instructions, he drove to the site, unaware that a deadly trap awaited him. Upon arrival, Brian was ambushed by Marjorie Deal Armstrong, Kenneth Barnes, and additional accomplices. According to later court documents, Brian was restrained and a metal collar bomb was fastened around his neck. This was no simple fake device, it was mechanically sophisticated. A locking mechanism prevented removal without a specific key. Internal wires connected to a timer and explosive charge. The device was designed to detonate if Brian failed to follow a series of complex instructions. A folded note was handed to him containing exact steps he had to follow to obtain $250,000 from PNC Bank. Failure was not an option. With the bomb secured, Brian was released to carry out the instructions, now a pawn in a meticulously planned murder plot. Brian drove carefully, every movement dictated by the instructions on the note. The collar bomb weighed heavily, pressing against his neck and shoulders. Its ticking was constant, a harrowing countdown that amplified his fear with every second. Investigators later described the device as designed to enforce compliance. It contained multiple triggers that would detonate the device if tampered with. A mechanical timer linked to the locking mechanism. A sequence of puzzle-like instructions that had to be solved to avoid detonation. The streets of Erie appeared normal, small shops opening, people walking dogs, children waiting for school buses. Brian, however, knew that his life depended on following the instructions to the letter. Each red light, each turn heightened his anxiety. By the time he reached PNC Bank, his nerves were on edge. What began as an ordinary pizza delivery had turned into a deadly mission, orchestrated by criminals who had manipulated and terrorized him for hours. The bank was quiet. Employees sat at desks, phones rang softly, and the polished floors reflected the morning sun. Brian entered with his pizza bag and the note. Handing it to the teller, he delivered the chilling message. "Give me $250,000. Do not try anything. I will be killed if this is not done." The teller froze. Employees noticed the metal device strapped around his neck. Panic spread through the room. Some ducked behind counters, others called 911 discreetly. Brian carefully followed instructions, placing the money in a bag. Each tick of the device echoed louder in his ears than in reality. He moved deliberately, trying not to startle anyone, yet aware that one mistake could be fatal. Outside, life continued as normal. Bystanders walked past the bank, oblivious to the life and death situation unfolding inside. Police arrived within minutes, securing the area and attempting to communicate with Brian. Negotiators instructed him on steps to reduce risk, but the bomb was too sophisticated for immediate removal. Investigators later detailed the device. Tampering would trigger detonation. Wires connected the timer to both the lock and explosive charge. The instructions were puzzle-based, requiring precise compliance to prevent an explosion. Inside, employees whispered prayers. Brian's hands trembled, yet he continued to obey. Outside, onlookers gathered, some filming with their phones, unaware that every passing second increased the danger exponentially. Brian's movement was slow and deliberate, dictated entirely by the bomb and the instructions in the note. He could not improvise. Improvisation meant death. Tragically, the bomb detonated inside the PNC bank before any technicians could safely intervene. The explosion ripped through the building, scattering debris, glass, and smoke. Brian Wells was killed instantly. Screams erupted as employees dove for cover behind counters and desks. Officers rushed inside, trying to make sense of the chaos. Investigators quickly cordoned off the scene, examining the aftermath meticulously. They discovered pieces of the collar device, revealing its intricate design. Notes and instructions strapped to Brian, some folded into his clothing. Fingerprints and traces of materials linked to multiple suspects. It became immediately clear that Brian was not a willing participant. He had been coerced, manipulated, and forced into this deadly plot. The sophistication of the bomb indicated that someone with knowledge of mechanical engineering and explosives had constructed it with meticulous care. Forensic experts analyzed the device in a secure lab. They found that the bomb was collar-mounted and weighted, designed to make removal without the proper key impossible. Containing a mechanical timer connected to explosive charges, which would detonate if the device was tampered with or if Brian failed to follow the instructions correctly. Fitted with puzzle-like instructions embedded in the wiring, ensuring the victim had to obey to survive. Authorities determined that Kenneth Barnes and associates were responsible for placing the bomb around Brian's neck. Barnes, according to later court testimonies, applied the collar in a secluded location outside Erie. Marjorie Deal Armstrong orchestrated the entire scenario, giving specific instructions to Barnes and others about timing, locations, and methods of coercion. The assembly of the bomb indicated advanced pre-planning, suggesting that this was intended not merely as a robbery, but as a calculated, potentially lethal coercive act. Immediately after the explosion, local and federal authorities launched a massive investigation. Erie police collaborated with the FBI, given the sophisticated nature of the crime. Investigators focused on several key questions. 1. Who had the technical ability to construct such a bomb? 2. Who had the motive to target Brian Wells? 3. How were instructions communicated to the victim? Witnesses inside the bank provided detailed accounts. The precise wording of Brian's note, his calm compliance under extreme duress, and the moment-to-moment tension as he followed instructions. These accounts helped investigators reconstruct the final movements before the explosion. Evidence from Brian's body, including fingerprints, DNA, and the notes, directed the investigation toward Marjorie Deal Armstrong, Kenneth Barnes, and Bill Rothstein. Analysts noted that Rothstein's connection remained ambiguous, particularly due to his death from a brain tumor before any trial could clarify his role. Marjorie Deal Armstrong, a known criminal with a history of manipulation and mental instability, became the prime suspect. Investigators discovered she had previously orchestrated robberies and extortion schemes. She had psychological influence over Kenneth Barnes, who acted as her assistant in this plot. Evidence suggested she personally designed the bank robbery instructions, ensuring that Brian Wells would have no way to remove the bomb safely. Kenneth Barnes was interrogated extensively. He admitted to assembling and placing the collar bomb following Marjorie's instructions. The motive appeared financial, extortion and gain through Brian's forced compliance. Bill Rothstein, while not directly charged, was believed to have assisted in planning and technical details, particularly concerning logistics and surveillance of the victim. His death left key questions unanswered, fueling conspiracy theories about the full extent of his involvement. The story spread nationwide. News outlets ran repeated segments on Brian Wells' tragic death, the mysterious collar bomb, and the criminal investigation. The public was both horrified and fascinated by the bizarre combination of ordinary life disrupted by extreme criminal ingenuity, a man forced to commit a crime under threat of death, the mechanical complexity and deadly design of the collar bomb. Podcasts, newspapers, and TV shows analyzed every detail, speculating on motives, technical design, and the psychology of both the criminals and the victim. True crime enthusiasts debated whether Brian Wells was entirely innocent or somehow complicit, though evidence overwhelmingly showed he was a pawn and victim. Forensic experts studied the assembly and timing mechanisms of the bomb. They concluded that the device was custom-built, not a commercially available product. It required specialized knowledge to assemble and arm. Any attempt to remove the bomb incorrectly would result in instant detonation. Police reconstructed the timeline. 1. Brian received instructions at the tower location. 2. He was fitted with the bomb by Barnes and accomplices. 3. He followed the note's instructions precisely to PNC Bank. 4. Negotiators attempted to de-escalate the situation. 5. The bomb detonated before it could be safely removed. This reconstruction provided insights into both criminal behavior and law enforcement tactics when facing improvised explosive devices in civilian settings. Experts later analyzed how Marjorie Deal Armstrong psychologically manipulated her accomplices and victim. Brian Wells was coerced through fear and threat of imminent death. Kenneth Barnes acted under her influence, executing her instructions despite the danger. The intricate instructions and riddles embedded in the bomb exploited human compliance under stress, making escape or improvisation nearly impossible. After the investigation uncovered the full scope of the collar bomb heist, law enforcement prepared for prosecution. The primary suspect, Marjorie Deal Armstrong, faced multiple charges: first-degree murder, conspiracy, and robbery. Kenneth Barnes, her accomplice, was also charged with conspiracy and aiding and abetting murder. Court documents revealed the meticulous planning behind the crime. Brian Wells was lured to a remote location under the pretense of a delivery or pickup. The collar bomb was strapped by Barnes while under Marjorie's supervision. A complex series of instructions, notes, and riddles were designed to force compliance and ensure fatal consequences if ignored. Prosecutors argued that Brian Wells was a victim and pawn, coerced into committing the robbery under threat of immediate death. Witnesses, including bank employees and local residents, provided testimony about Brian's demeanor, his precise adherence to the instructions, and the terror that gripped him as he moved through the bank. Bank employees recounted seeing Brian walk calmly, yet tensely as he approached the teller. The folded note demanded $250,000, warning that failure would be fatal. Employees described the metal collar, noting its weight and mechanical complexity. Nearby witnesses, including bystanders on the street, reported police negotiations and the ticking of the device, which could be faintly heard over their phones and cameras. These observations helped establish the timeline of the final moments. The collar bomb heist remains one of the most shocking crimes in American history. A pizza delivery driver, a deadly mechanical device, and a criminal mastermind combined to create a story that continues to educate and fascinate. Be aware of unusual requests, even in ordinary circumstances.